with Fort Dodge Schools, and I'm going to let Ed explain his position over at Fort Dodge, and Joseph Walston, who is an employee of a manufacturer, and we'll let Joseph also share his story a little bit as we get ready to go. Ed, step up and introduce yourself.
My name's Ed Birkey, and I'm an industrial tech teacher at Fort Dodge Senior High. I teach engineering and woodworking is my primary areas that I teach, and I also do robotics, and this is my 6th year as a coach for the FTC team here at Fort Dodge.
All right, now explain, we're going to grab that before we get Joe in there. What's the FTC stand for, Ed?
It's called First Tech Challenge, and it's out of the organization of First, and it's the second level of robotics that they have. They have a FLL, which is First Lego League, and then they have First Tech Challenge, which we're involved in, and the next one, which is the big robots, is FRC, which is First Robotic Competition. Yeah.
Stop both of us there. All right, Joe, swing in there and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Joseph Walston. I work at New Way. It's down in Scranton, Iowa. I do the programming for the garbage trucks, and basically how I got into FTC was I was a student in it with Birkey, and after years of competing with them, then I stepped into the coach role.
Super. Now, you're a Dodger graduate.
Yep.
All right. What year did you get out, Joe?
2014.
All right. Say hi to all your classmates out there.
Hi.
Yeah. Have you ever heard the phrase, once a Dodger, always the Dodger?
Yeah.
Ed, you've certainly heard that. You know, Tom Kinsis brought that around about every email that he sent out, by all means. So this has personal interest for me tonight, folks, in many ways, both in my industrial career, which was quite a few years, actually, in the early years after college. And then also, this was something, as I was explaining to Ed and Joe, that my son is actively involved in his position, has been for 12-plus years. So let's talk about, first off, Ed, when we talk about this competition, this is this the Super Bowl or is this the playoffs?
This would be the first round of the playoffs, actually. You have to, at our competition, which is going to take place Saturday, there's going to be 24 teams there, and of those 24 teams, 8 will be able to go on to the next level.
All right, and so help me a little bit more. There have been 2 other competitions in your league this year, if I'm right?
5.
5. See, I can't read it all. That's all right. And those 5 competitions, you have a league, and then it looks like there's a league that's a little more in eastern Iowa.
Yeah, there's multiple leagues all around the state, and what we do is we have 3 to 5 league matches, and then they will bring all the leagues into league championships. So there'll be 2 leagues go to each championship in Iowa, and then they advance from there.
All right, now tell us, if you can, roll off what teams are in your league for me, Ed.
Well, in our league, we have, and we're all by numbers and names, so it's kind of interesting. We have a 7529 Bear. They're from Belmont. We're 7332, the Dodgerbots. That's one of our teams. Our other team is 10185 from the island of Misfit Robots from Fort Dodge. 8661 is the Wildcats, and they're from Glidden Ralston there. 9973 is the Scrap Mechanics, and that's at Manson, Northwest Webster. The RoboCats up north at Humboldt is 6546. And then we have 9569 BK Robo. They're from Belmont. Then there's 4 teams from Manning, which is 8469, the Wolves. Then they got 10249, the Robotic Wolves Black. Then they got 10256, Robotic Wolves Green. Then they got 10257, Warriors of Steel. Now, this year we had also 2 new teams that came in, and one of them is 13416, the Jagbots, over there at Gallery. So it's nice to have them start a team. And then we have another, it's a junior high team out of Belmont, which is 13875. It's a BK Battlebots.
All right, now you had quite a list there, but curiosity's got me. Why the numbers in the names?
You're assigned a number by FTC, and you always keep that number yearly.
All right, so it's identification.
And then we have, then they will actually assign, then you can come up with your own individual name that you want to be.
So that tags onto it from there. All right, Joe, step in there a little bit for me. All right, now let's take you back to 13-14. You're a Fort Dodge junior, senior. What drew you to get involved in this robotics group?
So actually, it was in a Nuts and Bolts magazine. We saw the FRC ad, and gave that to Birkey. And from that, it showed interest in robotics, and then we started a team. First match year, it was just me and Birkey, and we got our kit 2 weeks before. There was back ordered, and we didn't know. So we came there, and we didn't know a lot. And then the next year would have been my senior year, and then we got more kids involved. We actually had 2 people who were really good at fabricating, and we did very good that year.
All right, so some of these devices, I'll call them for right now, not vices, but we're going to call them devices. Some of them you actually create parts for them. Is that correct in what I hear?
Yeah, so we have partners in the community like Josephson Manufacturing.
Sure.
They'll water jet out parts for us. And then we also have a teacher at the school, Kavanaugh. He'll help mill out parts for us. And then with 3D printers at the school, we can 3D print parts. And then a lot of it, too, is just the kids learn to fabricate parts.
On their own, by all means. And if that word gets out, you got 3 3D printers out there. You guys might be rushed at the door tomorrow morning.
Yeah, that's nice. You know, anytime you can draw something on a computer and then make it work, it's that's industry, so it's good for kids.
It is. We were out, of course, the Kids Mania the last couple of years. We've helped with that a little bit, and been fortunate. Right next to us is Iowa State's display with the 3D printer. Pretty super cool. I have an idea, and I'm actually talking to a patent lawyer about it, and the one lady from ISU said, well, tell me, I'll tell you if we can do it right now. I said, I'm not giving that idea up, Wallace is looking for his 15 minutes. I'm not looking for fame, I'm looking for the funds that come out of it. But, all right, now this group that you've got, do you have any girls in the group?
Yeah, we have 2, actually.
Okay. Now, I'm also on the Frontier Days committee, and a couple of years ago, you guys placed really well with your entry in the parade. Do you know that drew, your entries drew the most? I handle the parade entrance and so forth on part of it. That drew more feedback and comments than any other entry in the parade that year.
It was pretty neat. You know, we had a golf cart that we made into an exact copy of our robot, and then we pulled a trailer with a small version of the game, and they drove robots around in it. So.
Now, robotics are a real part of our life. Would you say that, Joe? I mean, you're in manufacturing. What do you say about that?
Yeah, so just from the programming part of the garbage trucks, a lot of the programming that I learned from programming these robots went on to what I'm using
Really?
today.
All right, so you had some hands-on experience, and as a former manufacturer employee, we always were looking for kids or young students, if you would, that had the interest and especially on-the-job training in its own way. The competition, let's get this out a couple of times, Ed. Tell me again about what time the competition starts, and is it open to the public?
Yeah, the competition itself will start at like 8 o'clock, and students have to go in front of a panel of judges, and they have to get the robots inspected and okayed to compete, because there are rules about what you can and can't use. The competition itself, when they're actually going head-to-head, will start about 11:30.
Okay. Now, again, are the door, and where is it, in the gym at Fort Dodge Senior?
Yeah, it's at Fort Dodge Senior High, and it is open to the public. In fact, you're encouraged to come, and if we're even looking for volunteers yet to help with it.
Super. Hey, let's get that out. That is a big part of this. Volunteers, do they contact yourself?
Yeah, the best thing to do is just contact me at Fort Dodge Senior High.
How about a phone number?
515-269-1275.
All right. Now, let's dig in a little deeper. How many kids you got in your group and your club this year?
I think there's 17 on the list.
That's a good number.
Yeah. We have 2 robots. You're supposed to have only a maximum of 15 team members on each robot.
Okay. Well,
you got 2 robots.
Yep, so you're in good shape. Each year, do you change themes as you work towards that? Joe, you're looking like you're shaking your head there.
Yeah, so they come up with a game design that they will release in September.
Okay.
And with that game design, it changes that, like they had a block party one year where you had to throw a block into a basket and balance. This year, it's called a relic recovery, and it gets kind of like an Indiana Jones theme where you have to go and put blocks into what they call a crypto box and create columns and rows and, pick what ball to hit off. They call it jewel.
Now, this is all done mechanically. This isn't with any physical hands in there, right?
Well, there's 3 different parts to the game. The first part is autonomous, which is all coding and programming. So we have to use sensors, and you have to be able to tell your robot how to drive so far and to get and get to a certain location. And then they have and that's 30 seconds. The autonomous period.
Yep.
Yeah, that's 30 seconds. And then they have a driver period where they can grab the blocks and score them. And then they do that for a couple of minutes, and then they have another 30-second end game where they have to. There's a relic which they can put outside the arena, or they can drive back up on a balancing stone, they call it.
All right, so what I'm hearing, this thing's pretty well organized from what it sounds like. Joe, go ahead. I'm going to let you jump in there a little bit.
Yeah, they really got the game design down, and it's always interesting to see every year what's going on, and you can relate everything they do to real world things. Like, we use distance sensors, we use touch sensors, which would be like a prox, that you might have. A lot of the real world, I need to drive like this, and this has this results thinking.
When you talk about, Ed, you talked about, and both of you, Joe, you talked about different, I'll call them sub-assemblies. Again, from my manufacturing background, everything pretty much had a multi-level to it. The BOM, the bill of material, exploded out, and then you start putting all these sub-assemblies together, and whoa, we got a final part. What you look for, to me, is, are the kids, if you got 17 kids, you got 17 kids that's showing some interest. And I've already heard response from the community. Some of the feedback, I'd still like to do something with that a little bit. There's one of the guys that used to film the parade, and I'm wondering if he might have had that of you guys, or if you guys have got any video on that in the parade that year. But do you see this as something that's going to continue to grow, especially with the interest on the job site, Ed?
Well, if you listen to the news, you hear about automated cars, automated semis, automation here, there. There's going to be a big shift of workers in our country.
Yes.
And we need to have people who can code and people that can do that, because the jobs that we have today aren't going to be here tomorrow.
And I'll go back to some of my history with Rockwell Collins many, many years ago. But in the mid-'70s and up through the mid-'80s, I was employed over there. Worked on, I mentioned to you guys, a couple of projects some people will be familiar with. We worked on the Apollo project. We worked on the Space Shuttle project. Now, before some of you that know me are kind of wondering could that be possible, I was a staff coordinator, meaning I was a gopher. I helped pull people together and work on this project, or find parts for them, or expedited things and change marketing schedules, or I should say order schedules. And, but what it was is that at that time, if you know what a printed circuit board is, and many of you do, we were just beginning auto insertion of components, resistors, diodes, transistors. It was phenomenal what we could do. Parts started coming in on long reels, and we would then take them out of that reel, push them through the 2 holes in the board, cut and clinch them, and then later they run through wave solder. So if you've been around electronics manufacturing, you have a little bit of an idea what that was about. Now, at that time, Rockwell Collins made the world's largest multi-layered, I should say, most layered board anywhere in the world. It was 13 layers. And, this is done by hand at that time. So every layer is hand inspected, soldered, checked here, and then you add another layer. But again, they're building all of the avionics at that time for almost every Boeing plane, 707s on up through 27, 47, 67, and 77s as they continued, and the various space projects, of course, Apollo and the Space Shuttle. What you found was, just like you said, Ed, so I lived it, we would have to take people out of one category of group, and Rockwell was a union shop at that time. I believe they still are. And we started that retraining process already back then. Now, many of those people got better jobs. They really did. But the challenge became, both for Rockwell and for the employee, that they need to step up to the line, and they're going to better themselves. Now, there were some people that wasn't a challenge they wanted to take. What they were more interested in was a different type of job, so they might transfer to another department. That time we had 14,000 employees just in Cedar Rapids at that time. So there was a few opportunities in different locations. But so I summarized some of that, my hands-on experience, along with what my son does today as an engineer in a facility that uses robotics quite a bit because they manufacture loads for the 40-millimeter grenade launcher and other devices that are used in combat today, especially in those things. Those robotics are extremely important because it takes the personal side away and protects the person more, especially at Rock Island and so forth from there. So with that little history and with what you've got going on today, tell me, Ed, what do you look for? Now, you've had these other competitions. What do you look for on Saturday out of your team? And then let's talk, Joe, we'll come back to you, and we'll talk about what you think you'll see from some of the other teams also.
Well, I think the big thing you're going to see is you're going to see a lot of, we call it gracious professionalism. Everybody's going to win and everybody's going to lose, and you have to be a good winner and a good loser, and you got to help each other, and you just move on if things don't go right. We're also, a big part of this contest isn't just how good your robot is. It's how good your engineering notebook is. In fact, out of the 8 teams that are going to qualify, 4 of them are going to be how good their robot are. The other 4 is going to be what have they done as a group of kids to do community outreach and engineer, design, and just have fun. So, that's the important thing. I just want kids to have fun.
All right, Joe, tell us about what an engineering notebook is in this case.
So what that is the notes and the process we went through to make the robot.
Step by step.
Yep. So you have your bill of materials, your drawings for how we made the robot, the parts we had cut at Josephson's, those have to have drawings. Then it also has our business plan because it's not cheap to run a robot sometimes. No. So we're going out, like we're sponsored by Mike and Ike. We're sponsored by
Mike and Ike. Dr. Kurt and I are very happy. We're going to leave a couple of these for Mr. J if they survive. And we're talking the original Mike and Ike candies. So we'll give a big shout out to the Mike and Ike group. These are super. I mean, I've grown up even. My son loves those things.
So the business plan is really important because we go out and we have to fundraise, and also that is like any business, you want your community outreach, and that's you want to see what you can do for the community. And we go out, we'll talk to schools, go out, tour businesses, see what they're doing, and all that's documented, so then you can show this is what we do.
Now, I'm not going to put you on the spot, and I hope I do this the right way. Iowa Central get involved in this at all?
Well, yes, they do. They're actually, Thad is going to bring his industrial robot and give a demonstration to all the kids that are there and talk about their program. And they've actually, this is the second year of our competition that we are hosting the league championship, and they're going to give a $300 scholarship to all the team members of the winning Alliance captain.
Hey, we're going to take a short break, coming right back here on the All Sports High School Show, talking about activities tonight for everybody throughout the area. We're going to pick it back up with the Joe and Ed show here real shortly. We'll talk some more about Iowa Central on the All Sports High School Show.
If you're looking for a healthcare...
And we're talking robotics here tonight, and you say, how does that fit with sports? Absolutely. For a number of different shows, I'll try and talk about the importance of activities. Tonight I talked about a stat that came across my desk early this morning from the Community Foundation on some information they send out. 90+% of students, Ed, I don't know if you heard that are involved in music programs. Now, we realize music and robotics you probably use some music in some of the routines down the road if you're not doing that already, but how that 18% better graduation rate, so that increases that learning ability. You got something you want to say? You want to jump on that?
I was going to joke around and say that robots are going to sing for us eventually. Anyway.
Yeah, they already are. I've gotten some MP3-4s that have rolled my way, and the question is on them: tell which one is a real live person and which one is a robotic background music, as Kurt knows the better terminology, or a bed that they lay down here over behind commercials and so forth. But it's amazing. I mean, it is phenomenal. Rockwell started on voice activation back in the mid-'70s when I happened to be with them at that time. And, we would jump up and down if we could get 3 words out of 10, But by the time I moved on out to Colorado, a lot of improvements in different ways. CAD-CAM, as you commonly know it today, was just coming around. Computer-aided design, computer-aided manufacturing. A lot of it done in some of the helicopter contracts, Bell and Company and so forth that Rockwell had at that time. And amazing. They had some Weedomatic beds that were 16 feet wide down there in the shop at that time. And they'd push a button and nobody's hands would touch that thing. And by the time it got done, it had done an awful lot of hole drilling, milling, and cutting. Just phenomenal, and that was, oh boy, long before, Joe, your parents weren't even thinking about you. Ed, probably even close for you, but I got a few hundred years on you. So we're going to pick it back up and let these two gentlemen talk, but I do think this is really important to get the message out. Balance, call it that, call it your will, that you apply to, hey, this is how I want to make my choices. Beth Merman, who's a Fort Dodge senior, I believe, this year. I think Beth's a senior this year. That as I've seen her name, whether it was tennis, then volleyball, swimming, she just keeps showing up. And now I see that she was in the a cappella choir that went up to Wisconsin and took first place recently. Everybody doesn't sign up for tennis, and everybody doesn't sign up for track and football. This is another avenue that kids, boys and girls, can explore, and especially one that this interest can lead to a good career choice by all means. Ed, go ahead with that.
Yeah, it's the biggest thing that we always try to get across is this is more than just building robots. It's building relationships. It's you have deadlines. You have things that have to get done. We have an engineering notebook that has to have information on it. So there's a lot of different jobs that everybody, somebody can be good at. And that's the biggest thing we emphasize.
Well, and Joe, I saw your eyes light up earlier when we talked about engineering notebook and so forth. That's a business plan. That's a detailed business plan. When you start putting things together, you look at cost of goods, you look at manning costs and equipment costs and so forth. It does sound like that you already can see how this helped you, and it followed you, your path, maybe even out in front of you some as you went into employment.
Yeah, so a lot what I learned from doing FTC and robotics is what I use on a daily basis. You're set with a problem, and just you learn early the process to solve a problem. I need to hit this ball. Well, I can have a color sensor pick up the color, or out in the real world, I need an arm to stop, and I have a prox, so I see the prox and I stop my arm. And a lot of, I didn't go to school for programming and the garbage trucks, but what I learned from doing robotics and FTC helped me to get to the position I'm at.
And let's clarify that. When you say garbage trucks, the company you work for builds garbage trucks, and so you're doing the program that allows the operator of those trucks, those refuse trucks, to do his job or her job.
Right. So, in Fort Dodge, you have it's called an automated side loader.
Yep.
And it has the arm, and that arm has to know, when I push this button, send out this signal to turn on the hydraulics to let the arm go out, and then, don't go out too far, or grip your can too hard and crush it, or, don't let your garbage can get dumped into the trash, into the garbage
or on
truck.
The yard, by all means.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that, to me, as I thought through this, Ed, I remember I looked back on a couple of the earlier, at least one of the earlier emails from you, is the involvement, as you said, Gowrie out of the club. I take it that would be Southeast Valley has a club. Manson has a club.
Yep.
And, with the other, Glidden Ralston, Humboldt, so it's becoming, if not popular, it is becoming something that a lot of schools see the value in doing.
Yeah, I think there's 200 teams in Iowa right now. There's 200 FTC teams in Iowa right now, and that seems to be growing every year. Which you can you can see the importance of robotics.
All right, walk me through the competition, just let's say the results. If I remember right, 8 teams are going to advance out of this on Saturday. Is that right?
Yeah.
And they're going to go to Sioux City. Is that right?
Yeah, it's called a super qualifier.
Okay.
And there's going to be 24 teams coming. They'll come from 3 different league championships. They'll go through and do the same thing again and have to meet with a panel of judges, and they set up displays in the pit area. They get evaluated the whole day by judges, and then at the end of the day they get awards. And then they also have alliances they have to choose for the best robots, and then they have the finals, and from that one, the top 16 teams get to go.
And there is a national level to this, is that right?
Yeah, so there you qualify to the state championship, which is in Iowa City. And at that one, there's 48 teams. So out of the 200 teams in Iowa, 48 teams will make it to the state championship. And then last year, 12 teams from there went on to a mega regional or super regional, which is in Cedar Rapids. And from there, I'm not sure how many they take, but they go to Worlds, and Worlds was in St. Louis last year. This year it's going to be in Detroit. And an interesting fact is that, out of our league championship, we had 3 teams that went to the super regional, and then 2 of those went to the Worlds.
Wow.
And the best award you can get is like the World Championship award. It's called the Inspire Award, and a team out of Iowa got the Inspire Award.
Fantastic. Joe, I'm going to come back to you both as a student and now as an employee. Ed's talked about it. You brought it up. You're building friendships. You're building relationships with the community. You're out involved with the community. You're learning about the sides of business that, I'm going to tell you, they didn't have this back when I went through. I was a business major in college. We started getting true intro to business maybe as a sophomore, where you really started learning about business plans. And, of course, you could take basic accounting and debits and credits, took it all. That was my major. But when you come back, what about relationships with the friends that you've made at the club in Fort Dodge and then some of the other activities with this you've been involved with?
Yeah, so it's helped out a lot with, just learning to work as a team, because you get into the working environment, too, and you have to be able to say, okay, this is my idea, and another person says, okay, this is my idea, and then how to put your ideas together, and then also just, how a manufacturing process works, to work with people, because, in industrial tech, there's a whole range of people.
Absolutely.
So you have to, a guy on the floor, you can talk to him nice and easy because, you have similar interests to get the whatever you're building built. And so, yeah, that's helps out with
I learned at Rockwell real quickly to build the best relationship with my programmer. I had a programmer assigned to the area that I had, and he had a backup. But when we were at times, as manufacturing grows, both him and I had to cover first and second shift. And so, because he knew a little of my job, I knew a little of his, he'd cover the first shift and maybe a couple more hours, then I'd come in on that second shift. Like most manufacturing companies, they're not always going to jump right up and hire people for both shifts at times, and I'm not putting that down, but it takes growth patterns and it takes validity to contracts and cost-expense ratios, all those good factors that we love to talk about. But the fact is, the relationship part of this is something I am so glad to hear. We're always looking for positives here on the All Sports High School show. Coaches have brought that up in the athletic side, but you're our first entry into the other activities really in detail. We've had some of the a couple of other small groups. We're going to work on that more. We've got a group from Southeast Valley. The ladies, the dancers down there are going to be with us when we go that way soon. Kurt and I have both wanted to get some of the cheerleaders in because they bring all that energy and that we know they work as hard as a lot of athletes in the involvement from there. But what you two have brought for us tonight, to me, one, of course, because of my personal interest, both with my son in his career and what I had done for close to 20 years, I learned so much. I moved from Rockwell out to Colorado. We moved out, and I worked for a company called Storage Tech, still going out there in Louisville, Colorado. They call it Louisville, most of them out there, halfway up the turnpike towards Boulder. They were the first when they started burning into hard disk at that time. And then they made high-impact printers back then. This is unbelievable. I'm going to screw up the numbers, but it was thousands of impressions in a minute. These were huge impact printers. We had a facility in Ireland also, but, if you could only know in your industry what people are capable of doing. Now, Ed, I got to tell you, I'm not in favor of driverless callers and trucks. Are you? Does that put you on the spot?
I'm no comment.
Yeah, I love it. That. Now we're getting somewhere. Joe, what do you think about them?
I think a driverless garbage truck would be great. It's just hopefully not in my lifetime.
And there's reasons on my choices by all means, and we just hope in different ways. I'm going to have you two introduce yourself again as we get ready to wrap up here in about 5+ minutes. But Joe, what do you say about the competition and the club that valued so much? Put it in your own words again for us, if you would.
So FTC, it really helps you to get a handle on what the real world would be like in a manufacturing process. It helps you to learn programming, fabrication, how working as a team. There's multiple aspects to a business, in essence, is what we are, and that you have to be able to fundraise, you have to be able to understand the logic of the robot, you have to understand that it's always not going to go your way, and that's not always a bad thing, because you can always bring back, I lost this match or whatever. Well, why did I lose this match? What can I do to improve? And, that constant improvement. And
then the second stage for you, you carried that into your employment. How has that helped you?
Yeah, so the doing FTC helped me to get a job being a programmer. It's just having a place to where I could start to learn, this is the different parts that go into designing an autonomous system, even a driver-controlled system, and this is what you need to do. You can't, red isn't always red to a robot.
Right.
Off isn't always off. You have to learn to build in, why isn't it just on or off? You have to figure out the analog part of it, too.
So would you recommend that other students get involved in this?
Yeah, it's really good way. It look good on your resume. It looks good when you're applying for a scholarship. People are looking for people who have some knowledge of manufacturing or robotics when they're looking to hire somebody.
Super. All right, Mr. Ed, step in. Tell me why you got involved, because you're putting some hours on this that I don't think that Mr. Cochran's got you on the clock for this, does he?
No. It's a lot. It takes a lot of time. And I guess, just to finish things out, it's just important that there's nothing wrong with failing, I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you fail and you do something about it, it's all worth your time. If you fail and give up, then you need to change that type of attitude. And that's what I think this program does. It teaches kids to fail, and then what are they going to do to stop it, and improve and go back to the drawing board. And because that's what they have to do to be successful.
I'm sure one of you have heard of the term or the company Estes Rockets over the years. My son and I lived near the football field there in Grinnell, and many a times we would go through a budget for the month, and one Saturday morning those little rocket packs cost a little bit, but we had more fun with that. And then as we added, and whether it was parachutes or we included a payload that was a little bigger, and then we tried to get some distance and, land within a certain circle or a target, if you will. Those were our early days, and I tell you, that kid jumped onto it. I mean, he'd pull me out of bed at times and say, "Hey, Dad, let's go." 7 o'clock in the morning, be shooting off rockets is a little early sometimes, but sometimes those kids, and Joe, you probably had it, there's an interest level there. I can tell you as an employer and a hiring person in HR, over in industry, those were keys you looked for. You looked for that balance. You looked for other involvement. I just can't say enough. Ed, I want you to go through, if you would, for us as we get real close to wrapping up here, time, place, and what's going to happen on Saturday, again, if you would, for us.
We're going to host a league championship with 24 teams. 8 will qualify to the next level. It's going to be at the senior high. Best time to start watching the robots go will be at 11:30. feel free to come in early, and you can go through the pits and check out all the displays and see what they're doing.
And we're looking for a few volunteers, right?
Oh, yeah, always looking for volunteers. In fact, I'm looking for an announcer.
Let's see how that might work out. I think I know somebody that's done a little bit of that over the years. So, all right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I do hope you've enjoyed tonight's program. We're kind of in overtime, if you would, tonight. We checked ahead with the powers that be and got the green light because it didn't know exactly what we wanted to get out tonight. And talking with other coaches and ADs, many of the coaches, Ed, I know you know this. You know a lot of the staff over at Fort Dodge Senior, St. Edmunds probably, and the schools that we work with in Southeast Valley and Humboldt and Webster City, Madison Northwest, South Central Calhoun, many of the other ones, Eagle Grove, Clarion, Goldfield. I hate to leave somebody out because I'll get a phone call real quick. But the fact is these coaches want their student athletes involved in other programs, don't they, Ed?
Yeah, we have students that are involved in basketball, football, swimming, wrestling. We've had them all, and we just find time for them that when they can be involved, they can be involved.
Boy, that's
an open door policy.
That's great to hear. You know, sometimes that's not able to be done with some of the other sports, if you will, or some of the other criteria, especially in band. You want everybody marching the same direction on the same count, you know, from there.
The only criteria we give them is no boyfriends and girlfriends.
Cool. That comes early enough in life, I think, for a lot of us parents, we would say. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for being with us here tonight on the All Sports High School Show. Thanks to Dr. Kurt. Thanks to our guest tonight. I always want to get this right. I like the Joe. That's the easiest part. Walston. Now, where do you live at, Joe? Do you live down south?
Yeah, I live in Jefferson now.
In Jefferson? You bet. Yeah, Jefferson, Scranton over there by all means. So, all right. Ed, you live here in town, I take it?
Actually, I live in the big town of Barnum.
Ah, yes. Yeah, no, you got a great little elementary out there, you know, by all means. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we've been joined tonight by Joseph Walstrom and Ed Birkey from Fort Dodge Schools. Dr. Kurt on the board, Lee Wallace on the mic side. Thanks for being with us. Have a great week, everybody, from the All Sports High School Show.
KKEZ 90.